I thank all the panelists. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes for questions. Since I've been in Congress, we have never had pro-choice majorities until this year. Now we have a pro-choice majority in both chambers, including more than 100 Democratic women. The American people are solidly on the side of choice, with 4 in 5 people supporting legal abortion. Despite this strong support for abortion rights, right now anti-choice state legislators are trying to bulldoze the right to abortion right into the ground. And we cannot let that happen. Ms. Steinem, thank you for being here today. You spoke about your own abortion. And in the early 1970s, before Roe v. Wade, you pioneered the fight for reproductive rights. But what is happening today puts these 5 decades of progress at risk. Ms. Steinem, since Roe v. Wade, has the right to abortion ever been under greater risk than it is now and than it is today? You need to unmute, Ms. Steinem.
I do not remember any time at greater risk. And I'm sorry to say that I believe it is also connected to a racial bias in this country, because we are at a point when we are about to become a majority people of color country, which seems to me a great event in a way. We're going to have better relationships with other countries in the world, understand differences better, but I think there is a profoundly racist resistance to the continuation of the right to safe and legal abortion. And we see that in the nature of the resistors and the nature of their politics. It is absolutely fundamental that we control our own bodies. There is no democracy without that. We are fighting for the very basis of democracy.
Thank you. Professor Murray, one of the most extreme abortion bans in history, Texas's Senate Bill 8, took effect earlier this month after the Supreme Court refused to block it. And this December, the Supreme Court will hear oral arguments in the case examining Mississippi's 15-week abortion ban. This is a direct challenge to Roe v. Wade, which established the constitutional right to abortion. Professor Murray, how real is the possibility that Roe will fall in the coming months, and what will happen on the state level if it does? Professor Murray.
Thank you for the question, Chairwoman Maloney. I think it is very clear, given the Supreme Court's actions in that September 1st order regarding SB 8, Texas's flagrantly unconstitutional 6-week ban on abortion, that there is certainly a majority on the court that is receptive to the prospect of overruling Roe. And certainly the question has been squarely presented by Mississippi in its briefs before the court. Regardless of what the court does, it could overrule Roe entirely. It could simply remove viability as a salient marker in the court's jurisprudence. But the bottom line is the same. Reproductive rights across this country will be imperiled. If Roe is overruled, that will return this question to the states, and this country will be a patchwork of reproductive access, where some parts of the country will have uneven, if not abysmal, access to reproductive health care, while others will not. And that will have profound implications for poor women, women of color, LGBT women, women who live in rural areas. If the court simply decides that viability is no longer a salient concept and allegedly saves Roe, what we will have is a desiccated and hollowed out right to abortion, in which the states will begin to pass ever more restrictive laws and test whether a 12-week ban is permissible, a 6-week ban is permissible. And again, coming back to SB 8, the fact that we are now considering a 6-week ban that is in effect on the ground in Texas means that the Overton window about what is reasonable in terms of abortion restrictions has entirely shifted.
Thank you. Professor Ross, you are one of the original founders of the reproductive justice movement. If Roe falls, what will it mean for people seeking abortion care, particularly those for whom care has been historically pushed out of reach? Professor Ross.
What it will mean is that people will have fewer choices than I had even when I was a teenager in Texas, that they will become desperate. My parents considered taking me to Texas and seeing if I could get an abortion there, but they deemed it wasn't safe. Instead, they stuck me in a home, which is my decision too, for unwed mothers in San Antonio near Trinity University, because the plan was for me to give my son up for adoption, and I chose to keep him. And a lot of people think that because I kept my son born of rape and incest, that's why abortion should be illegal or outlawed. But just because I love my child doesn't mean I wanted to be raped to have him. And so I think it will be hard on women in Texas, but I have to say, as grassroots reproductive justice activists who believe that abortion is a human right, we will do whatever is necessary to save women's lives, because we've got that lived experience. And we're going to have every means at our disposal to make sure women don't die because people don't care, but we care.
Thank you all for being here today. The gentleman from Texas, Mr. Cloud, is now recognized for 5 minutes. Mr. Cloud.